The world of Ethelwood was woven from sound, not in the crashing cacophony of storms or the booming of giants, but in the soft, secret melodies that made up the very breath of existence. Here, the rivers didn't just flow. They hummed a deep, resonant bass note against the earth. The ancient trees didn't just rustle. Their leaves whispered forgotten lullabies as the wind swept through them. Even the light of the twin moons, Lumina and Nocturne, held a gentle, silvery chime that only the most attuned ears could perceive. Lyra possessed such ears. She sat on her window seat, tucked into the eaves of her family's cottage, the soft glow of a lumina moth lantern casting dancing shadows on the hand-woven tapestry, depicting the great harmony. Outside, the night was a symphony of delicate wonders. The star-dew droplets, clinging to the gossamer threads of spiderwebs, vibrated with a faint crystalline yangy ping as the cool air touched them. The sleep blossoms in the garden beneath her window unfurled their petals with a barely audible silken insea, releasing their calming fragrance into the air. And from the distant whispering woods 1,000 tiny voices intertwined, the gentle white-thrum of a moss-covered stone, the almost silent shimmer of a moon-petal vine growing in the deepest glades, the low, contented purr of the earth itself. Most people in Lyra's village of Echo Haven heard only the loudest of these sounds, the river's song, the wind's whisper. But Lyra heard more. She heard the underhum, the deep, foundational music that gave everything its unique resonance. She could distinguish the individual notes of 100 different ferns, each with its own tiny melodic signature. She knew the secret, wordless song of the ancient willow weeper by the village pond, a sorrowful yet beautiful tune that spoke of ages past. This gift, or perhaps this burden, meant that Lyra often felt as though she lived in a world far richer and more complex than anyone else imagined. It also meant she felt things deeply when the harmony faltered. Lately, the harmony had been faltering. It had started subtly, like a single instrument dropping out of an orchestra. A few weeks ago, the joyous skipping tinkle of the swift brook pebbles, usually a constant playful sound, had grown sluggish, then almost silent. Lyra had gone to the brook, kneeling by its banks, pressing her ear to the water, trying to coax the sound back with her own quiet hums. But the pebbles remained stubbornly mute. Then the vibrant chitter of the ember beetles, usually a sparkling counterpoint to the night, had softened to a mere ghost of itself. And tonight, as Lyra listened intently, a deeper unease settled in her chest. The lullaby of the moon-petal vines. It was gone. The moon-petal vines were ancient, their delicate pearlescent blossoms only opened under the combined light of Luna and Nocturne, releasing a soft hypnotic melody that drifted through the air, soothing all creatures to sleep. Lyra had never known a night without it. It was the final comforting note in Ethelwood's nightly symphony. But tonight, there was only a gaping silence where its gentle music should have been. A vast empty space that echoed in Lyra's heart. She slipped from her window seat, her bare feet making no sound on the wooden floor. Her room, though small, felt like a sanctuary, filled with found treasures, a smooth, river-worn stone that hummed when held just so, a cluster of dried chine blossoms that tinkled softly if she breathed on them, a feather from a skylark that seemed to carry the faint echo of its last song. Each object to Lyra held its own unique whisper. She crept to the small unlit hearth, where Grandmother Elara usually sat, her gnarled hands busy with mending or weaving. Elara was the oldest in Echo Haven, her wisdom as deep and slow as the roots of the elder trees. She was also the only one who truly understood Lyra's gift, though even Elara admitted Lyra heard things she herself no longer could. Grandmother Elara was asleep in her bed, her breathing a soft, steady rhythm. Lyra hesitated, then gently shook her shoulder. "Grandmother," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the sleep blossom's sigh. Elara stirred, her eyes fluttering open, cloudy with age, but still sharp. "Lyra, child, what troubles your slumber?" "The moon-petal lullaby," Lyra breathed, her voice tight with worry. "It's gone, and the swift brook, and the ember beetles, Grandmother, the whispers are fading." Elara's expression, usually serene, clouded with a familiar sadness. She sat up slowly, pulling her shawl tighter around her shoulders. "Ah, little listener, so you've noticed it too." Her voice was a low murmur, like the turning of old parchment. "I feared this day would come." "What is happening?" Lyra asked, her brow furrowed. Why are the sounds disappearing? Elara reached out a hand, her skin soft and wrinkled like ancient bark, and gently stroked Lyra's hair. There are tales, Lyra, old as the mountains themselves. Tales of a time before the Great Harmony, when the world was a cacophony, or worse, a vast silence. And tales of when the harmony, once established, began to waver. The Great Silence, Lyra repeated, a shiver running down her spine. The idea of a silent world, devoid of the delicate hums and whispers she cherished, was terrifying. Not a true silence, not yet, Elara clarified, but a growing dissonance, a fading. Our world, Athelwood, thrives on its living song. It is the very pulse of its magic. If that song weakens, so too does Athelwood. She paused, her gaze distant, as if peering into the mists of time. The old stories speak of the heart song, the primordial melody from which all other sounds spring. They say it lies deep within the world, guarded by ancient magic. And when the heart song falters, the echoes of its music begin to die away, one by one. Lyra's heart ached. To think of the willow weeper's song, or the river's hum, or the stardew's chime, simply ceasing to be, was unbearable. But why is it faltering, and what can we do? Elara sighed, a sound like dry leaves skittering across stone. The why is a mystery, little one. The stories offer only whispers of reasons. A forgotten oath, a broken promise, a spirit of disharmony unleashed. As for what can be done? She looked at Lyra, her eyes suddenly piercing. That, Lyra, is a question only a true listener might answer. She rose, her movements slow but deliberate, and shuffled to a hidden compartment in the hearthstone. From it, she retrieved a small, unassuming pouch made of woven moon moss. She untied the drawstring and tipped its contents into her palm. It was a single stone, no larger than Lyra's thumb, smooth and gray, utterly unremarkable. It held no shine, no visible magic, no perceptible hum. This, Elara said, holding it out, is an echo stone. My grandmother gave it to me and her grandmother to her. It is said to have been carved from the very first resonance crystal, long ago, when the world was new and its song was strongest. Lyra took the stone. It felt cool and inert in her hand, utterly silent. No whisper, not even an under-hum. It doesn't sing, she said, disappointed. Not yet, Elara agreed. It is dormant. It can only awaken when it senses the true heart song, or when it is held by one whose own inner harmony is strong enough to rekindle its ancient memory. It will resonate with the world's deepest music, and guide its bearer to its source. Lyra clutched the stone. You think I can awaken it? Elara smiled, a faint knowing curve of her lips. If anyone can, Lyra, it is you. You hear the world as it truly is, even when others do not. You feel its fading song more keenly than anyone. Perhaps because of that, you are meant to find its source. The idea was daunting, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. Lyra, a quiet girl who spent her days listening to plants, was being asked to save the very music of the world. Where would I even begin? The whispers, Lyra, Elara said softly, her gaze drifting towards the window, towards the dark expanse of the whispering woods. The whispers will guide you. Even as the familiar sounds fade, there may be new whispers, faint and strange, that point to what is lost, or what needs to be found. Listen for them. Follow the newest, the most insistent, the one that feels like a forgotten memory trying to surface. Lyra spent the rest of the night by her window, the echo stone clutched in her hand. The silence where the moon petal lullaby should have been was a heavy shroud. The world felt muted, a painting losing its vibrant colors. She closed her eyes, focusing her extraordinary senses, reaching out with her inner ear, trying to discern any new, unfamiliar sound in the vast tapestry of fading music. The wind rustled through the elder trees, but it was just wind. The river still flowed, but its hum was thin, reedy. The distant forest, usually a symphony of hidden life, was eerily quiet. Despair began to creep in, a cold, silent thing. What if the whispers were all gone? What if the heart song was already lost? Then, so faint it was almost imperceptible, something shifted. Not a sound she heard with her ears, but a vibration, a delicate tremor in the air, a resonance that prickled the skin on her arms. It was like the ghost of a note, a breath of music that had traveled across vast distances and countless ages to reach her. It wasn't a sound from the forest, or the river, or the sky. It came from deeper. Can't go unseen, deeper. From beneath the earth, perhaps? Or from a place so far away it barely registered. It was a single, sustained, impossibly fragile hum. A hum that felt both ancient and brand new. A hum that pulsed with a quiet, insistent energy, like a heartbeat struggling to be heard. And it was coming from the whispering woods. Not the edge, not the familiar paths, but from the depths, from the part of the forest that was said to be truly ancient, where the trees grew so close their branches interlocked like the fingers of sleeping giants, and sunlight rarely touched the forest floor. The part of the forest no one from Echo Haven ever ventured into. The echo stone in Lyra's hand, still silent, felt infinitesimally warmer. Or perhaps it was just her imagination, fueled by the tremor she felt. She opened her eyes, looking out at the dark, dense line of trees. The heart song, the whispers, the fading music of Athelwood. It all depended on her. On her ears, on her courage, on her ability to follow a whisper so faint it might not even exist to anyone else. The sun would rise soon, painting the eastern sky with hues of rose and gold, but Lyra knew she couldn't wait for daylight. This whisper, this profound, delicate hum, felt like it might vanish with the sun's first rays, like a dream fading upon waking. It needed to be followed now, under the twin moons, while the world was still cloaked in the quiet magic of night. She slipped on her softest leather boots, grabbed a small satchel, and placed the echo stone carefully inside, next to a small flask of water and a handful of dried berries. She looked at grandmother Ilara, still sleeping peacefully, and whispered, "I will find the heart song, grandmother. I will bring the whispers back." With a deep breath that carried the last fading scent of sleep blossoms, Lyra pushed open the cottage door and stepped out into the silent, watchful night, following the ghost of a hum into the heart of the whispering woods. The ancient trees of the whispering woods loomed, their branches like skeletal fingers against the sliver of a crescent moon. Lyra had always known them as a symphony of rustles and sighs, a gentle chorus that lulled the village to sleep. Tonight, however, the silence was profound, a heavy velvet cloak muffling every sound. Only the faint, almost imperceptible hum seemed to beckon, a phantom melody that was more felt than heard, vibrating faintly in the air, a ghost of what once was. She stepped onto the soft, moss-laden path, her worn leather boots making no sound. The air was cool and sweet, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine needles. Moonlight dappled through the dense canopy, painting shifting patterns on the forest floor. Familiar shapes seemed unfamiliar in the stark silence. A gnarled oak, a cluster of glowing moss, a winding stream that usually gurgled now flowed with an unnerving hush. Lyra clutched the satchel at her side, feeling the comforting weight of the echo stone. It was a faint thrum against her hip, a tiny pulse that seemed to echo the phantom hum ahead, a promise of direction. The deeper she ventured, the more the woods unveiled their quiet sorrow. The usually vibrant sleep blossoms that dotted the clearings lay shriveled and dull, their petals crisp and papery. The shimmering moon dew, which typically clung to spider webs like strings of pearls, was nowhere to be seen. Even the air felt thinner, less alive. Lyra remembered grandmother Ilara's stories of the woods, of the chittering sprites who danced in moonlit rings, of the lullaby owls whose calls carried dreams on their wings, of the playful rustle hedgehogs who tumbled through the undergrowth, their quills a soft symphony. Tonight, there was nothing. No chitter, no hoot, no rustle. Just the persistent, almost painful quiet, broken only by the crunch of her own footsteps. Her eyes, accustomed to the dim light of the cottage, adjusted quickly, discerning the faint path. The hum grew marginally stronger, pulling her deeper into the ancient heart of the forest. She passed a grove of will-o-wisps, their slender branches usually swaying with invisible currents of sound, now utterly still, their silver leaves dulled, like tarnished mirrors reflecting no light. A pang of sadness touched Lyra's heart. These woods were dying, slowly, silently. The echo stone, nestled against her, suddenly pulsed, a definite warmth spreading through the fabric of the satchel. It wasn't just a faint thrum anymore, It was a gentle beat, like a tiny heart waking up. The hum ahead also intensified, drawing her towards a particularly dense thicket of ancient entwined briar bushes. These weren't ordinary briars. Their thorns were long and black, like obsidian shards, and they twisted into an impenetrable wall. "Hello," Lyra whispered, her voice feeling strangely loud in the quiet. No answer. She ran her hand along the edge of the briars, wincing as a thorn pricked her finger. A tiny bead of blood welled up, bright crimson against her pale skin. The briars seemed to recoil slightly, a minuscule opening appearing, just wide enough for her to squeeze through. It was as if the woods themselves were testing her, or perhaps acknowledging her intent. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through, the thorny branches scraping against her clothes, but leaving her skin surprisingly untouched. On the other side, the air was different. Cooler, yes, but also tinged with a faint metallic scent, like old rain on stone. She stood in a small circular clearing, dominated by a single immense tree. Its bark was a mosaic of deep greens and browns, ancient and furrowed, and its branches reached skyward, forming a natural dome. But what caught Lyra's attention was the light. Strange, iridescent motes of light drifted through the air, like dust motes caught in sunbeams, except there was no sun. They pulsed with a soft internal glow, casting a faint ethereal luminescence on the clearing. And then she saw it. Nestled among the roots of the giant tree, curled into a ball, was a creature. It was small, no bigger than her hand, with delicate translucent wings like those of a dragonfly, and shimmering scales that shifted from sapphire to emerald. Its eyes, large and black, were wide with an unreadable sorrow. It was a chittering sprite, but unlike any Lyra had ever heard described. Its usual vibrant colors were muted, its scales dull, and its wings, though intact, seemed too heavy to lift. It was silent. Lyra knelt slowly, trying not to startle it. "Hello?" she whispered again, her voice soft and gentle. The sprite's head lifted slowly, its large eyes blinking. A tiny whimper, a sound barely audible, escaped its lips. It was a sound of profound distress. "Are you hurt?" Lyra asked, extending a hand slowly, palm open. The sprite watched her, unmoving for a long moment. Then with a sudden burst of energy it unfurled its wings, not to fly but to tremble. A tiny, almost silent clicking emanated from it, the faintest ghost of a chitter. It was trying to speak, Lyra realized, but the sound was trapped, muffled, like a bell filled with dust. The echo stone in Lyra's satchel pulsed more strongly now, a steady rhythmic beat. She carefully took it out, holding it in her palm. It glowed with a soft inner light, mirroring the iridescent motes in the air. As she held it, the sprite's large eyes fixed on the stone. A tiny gasp, a sound that finally broke through the silence, escaped it. "The whispers," Lyra murmured. "They're gone, aren't they?" The sprite nodded, a tiny, jerky motion. It lifted a delicate, three-fingered hand and pointed a shimmering claw towards the giant tree, then traced a circle in the air above its head, ending with its claw pointing downwards, as if indicating a source from high above, now fallen. "The heart song?" Lyra ventured. Another nod, more urgent this time. The sprite's tiny body trembled. It made another effort to chitter, and this time a slightly louder, though still muted, chak-chi emerged. It was a sound of immense frustration and sadness. The iridescent motes in the air around them seemed to dim slightly in response to its distress. Lyra remembered Grandmother Elara's words about the chittering sprites being the keepers of the forest's joy, their chittering a constant melody that nourished the woods. Without it, the forest withered. The sprite was clearly suffering from the lack of the heart song, the source of all the wood's natural sounds and magic. "I'm looking for the heart song," Lyra told the sprite, her voice firm with resolve, to bring the whispers back. She gently placed the echo stone on the mossy ground between them. The sprite cautiously approached it, extending a delicate claw to touch its smooth surface. As it did, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor passed through the ground. The sprite's scales seemed to regain a sliver of their former brilliance, and a flicker of hope entered its dark eyes. It then began to move, slowly at first, then with more purpose. It led Lyra to the base of the giant tree, where an ancient, almost forgotten carving was barely visible beneath layers of moss and bark. It depicted a swirling pattern, like a knot of sound waves, radiating outwards from a central point. Around the swirl were images of various forest creatures, a lullaby owl, a rustle hedgehog, and even a chittering sprite, all depicted in vibrant motion, their mouths open as if singing or calling. The sprite pointed to the central swirl, then tapped its tiny chest, then pointed to Lyra and the echo stone. It was trying to tell her something. A heart song. It's within us. Or it resonates with something within us. On fi. Lyra knelt, tracing the ancient carving with her finger. This is a map, isn't it? The sprite chittered, a tiny, hopeful sound. It then pointed beyond the clearing, towards a darker, even denser part of the woods, where the canopy was so thick that the moonlight struggled to penetrate. It then placed its tiny claw on the image of the lullaby owl on the carving, then pointed towards the dark path. The lullaby owls, Lyra mused. They know something. Grandmother Elara had often spoken of the lullaby owls as the dream weavers, their calls guiding lost thoughts and forgotten memories. If anyone knew where the heart song's true echo might be found, it would be them. They were creatures of deep magic, their songs woven into the very fabric of the forest's slumber. The sprite nodded vigorously, then flew a short, wobbly circle, its wings creating the faintest whisper of air currents. It landed on Lyra's shoulder, its weight almost imperceptible, its tiny claws gently gripping her tunic. It seemed to be offering to guide her. "Thank you," Lyra whispered, a surge of warmth filling her. She carefully picked up the echo stone, its soft glow illuminating the sprite's hopeful face. The silent woods suddenly felt a little less daunting with a companion, even a tiny, quiet one. Together, Lyra and the chittering sprite, who Lyra silently named Whisper for its efforts to make sound, ventured deeper into the shadowed heart of the whispering woods. The path they now followed was even less distinct, winding through ancient roots and under drooping, silent ferns. The iridescent motes of light from the clearing seemed to follow them for a while, twinkling like distant stars before fading into the deeper gloom. The trees here were colossal, their trunks wider than Lyra's small cottage, their branches intertwining so tightly that only slivers of moonlight pierced the canopy, creating an eerie, almost sacred twilight. The air grew colder, and Lyra pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders. Whisper, perched on her shoulder, occasionally trembled, its small body radiating a faint, almost imperceptible chill. As they walked, Lyra noticed strange formations in the rock and earth. What looked like petrified waves of sound, frozen mid-ripple, jutted from the ground. Ancient moss, usually a vibrant emerald, was now a pale, brittle gray. It was as if the very memory of sound had been leached from this part of the forest. The phantom hum that had guided Lyra earlier was now almost non-existent here, replaced by a profound, echoing emptiness. Suddenly, Lyra stopped. Before them lay a wide, shallow riverbed, its stones smooth and worn. But no water flowed. It was completely dry, save for a few stubborn reeds clinging to life in the cracks. This was the River of Murmurs, Grandmother Elara had told her, a playful stream that carried the secrets and laughter of the forest from the high springs down to the village. Its murmurings were said to have healing properties, and its waters sparkled with the reflected light of 1,000 tiny voices. Now, it was just a silent, barren scar across the forest floor. Whisper let out a tiny, trapped sigh. It pointed a delicate claw at the riverbed, then at Lyra's satchel, then back at the riverbed, its meaning clear. The heart song's silence had dried the very lifeblood of the forest. "How do we cross?" Lyra wondered aloud. The banks were steep, and the riverbed was wide. Climbing down and up the other side would be a struggle, especially in the dark. As if in answer, the echo stone in Lyra's satchel began to vibrate rapidly, a frantic pulse against her hip. A low, guttural growl, deep and resonant, rumbled from the shadows of the opposite bank. It wasn't a malicious sound, but one of immense sadness and fatigue. A pair of enormous glowing amber eyes blinked open in the gloom. Slowly, ponderously, a creature emerged from the shadows. It was massive like a badger, but far larger, its fur a shaggy earth-toned brown, matted with ancient mud and leaves. Its claws were long and blunt, designed for digging, and its nose twitched, sensing the air. This was a burrow bear, a creature known for its deep sleep and its gentle rumbling snore that was said to soothe the earth itself. But this burrow bear was not sleeping. It looked utterly exhausted, its movements slow and heavy, its amber eyes fixed on Lyra, then on Whisper, then finally, with a jolt of recognition, on the echo stone that Lyra now held, its light pulsing in her hand. The burrow bear let out another low growl, but this one held a different quality, a hint of curiosity, perhaps even a flicker of distant memory. "Hello, friend," Lyra said softly, keeping her voice calm. "We mean no harm. We are searching for the heart song." The burrow bear slowly lumbered forward, its massive head dipping as if in acknowledgement. It reached the edge of the dry riverbed and looked across at Lyra. Its gaze was ancient, and Lyra felt a strange sense of empathy from the creature. It too was suffering from the silence. Its rumbling snores, usually a part of the forest's soothing hum, were gone, leaving it restless and weary. It let out a soft whine, then looked at its giant paws. It began to dig, slowly at first, then with increasing urgency, at the dry riverbed. Dust and pebbles flew as it excavated a large, shallow pit. Then, with a grunt, it laid down in the pit, turning its head to look at Lyra. "It wants us to cross on its back," Whisper chittered. Lyra, realizing the sprite's sounds were becoming slightly clearer, perhaps due to the presence of the echo stone. Lyra nodded, understanding. The burrow bear was offering passage, a bridge across the silent riverbed. It was a gesture of profound trust and quiet desperation. "Thank you," Lyra said, bowing her head slightly. She carefully climbed down the bank, Whisper fluttering nervously before landing back on her shoulder. The burrow bear's fur was coarse but surprisingly soft, and its immense body radiated a gentle warmth. Lyra found a comfortable spot on its broad back and held tightly to a clump of its fur. With a monumental effort, the burrow bear began to move, its powerful legs pushing it across the dry riverbed. Each step was slow, deliberate, as if it carried not only Lyra's weight, but the weight of the forest's sorrow. As they reached the middle of the riverbed, the burrow bear paused. It let out a deep, mournful sigh that seemed to echo in the profound silence. Suddenly, the echo stone in Lyra's hand vibrated furiously. The phantom hum, which had been almost absent, flared into a faint, ethereal melody around them. It was the ghost of a lullaby, a fragment of a forgotten song. The burrow bear's amber eyes widened, and it let out a soft, almost soundless groan, not of pain, but of a deep, resonant memory stirring within it. From the dry riverbed beneath them, faint, shimmering motes of light, similar to those in the sprite's clearing, began to rise. They weren't just random. They seemed to coalesce into faint, shimmering patterns like visual echoes of sound waves. Lyra realized these were the lingering memories of the River of Murmurs, stirred by the presence of the echo stone and the deep, sad resonance of the burrow bear. "These are the whispers," Lyra breathed, mesmerized. "The river's memories." Whisper chittered excitedly on her shoulder, its tiny wings fluttering, creating a soft, almost audible whirring sound. Its scales brightened further, a vibrant emerald now visible beneath the dullness. The shimmering patterns danced around them, forming images of tiny fish swimming, of children's laughter, of the gentle splash of water against pebbles. They were fleeting, ephemeral, but undeniably there. For a few precious moments, the silence was not quite so absolute. Then, as quickly as they appeared, the visual whispers faded. The phantom hum retreated, leaving only a faint echo in Lyra's mind. The burrow bear sighed again, a sound of longing, and resumed its slow journey to the other bank. Once they reached the other side, Lyra carefully dismounted. She reached out and patted the burrow bear's massive head. "Thank you, friend," she said, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. "For the path, and for showing me the whispers." The burrow bear blinked its amber eyes, a faint, almost imperceptible rumble escaping its chest. It seemed to understand. With another slow, weary sigh, it turned and lumbered back towards the shadows from which it had emerged, its presence a fleeting moment of connection in the vast, quiet woods. Lyra and Whisper stood on the opposite bank, the air feeling slightly warmer, more hopeful. The echo stone still pulsed steadily in Lyra's hand, a beacon of determination. The path ahead was still dark, but the brief encounter with the River of Murmurs had given Lyra a new understanding. The heart song wasn't just undying. Its absence had silenced the very memories of sound. And the echo stone, imbued with grandmother Ilara's touch and her own earnest hope, had the power to stir those memories, even if just for a moment. The lullaby owls, Lyra whispered to whisper. They weave dreams and memories. Perhaps they hold the strongest echoes of the heart song. Whisper chittered in agreement, its tiny body vibrating with renewed purpose. It pointed a claw towards a path that snaked upwards, deeper into the forest, towards what appeared to be ancient, towering cliffs barely visible through the thick canopy. This path was even steeper and more overgrown than before, almost swallowed by moss and tangled roots. As they ascended, the trees grew even more ancient and twisted, their branches forming intricate dark tunnels. The air became heavy with the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and sweet, like dried honey and old parchment. The phantom hum, almost lost in the riverbed, began to return, faint but persistent, guiding them upwards. They eventually reached a small plateau, where the trees parted to reveal a breathtaking sight. Before them stood a cluster of colossal, hollowed-out trees, their interiors glowing with a soft, warm light. These were the homes of the lullaby owls, known as the Dreamweaver trees. Their openings, high above the ground, were like gentle eyes watching over the forest. And then Lyra heard it. Not a hoot, not a call, but a faint, ethereal AGS whoosh, like soft fabric rustling in a breeze. A lullaby owl, immense and majestic, with feathers the color of twilight and eyes like molten gold, glided silently from one of the tree openings. Its wings, usually silent in flight, now created an almost imperceptible ripple in the air, a whisper of sound. It landed gracefully on a sturdy branch before one of the largest hollow trees, its golden eyes fixing on Lyra and whisper. Lyra felt a profound sense of calm wash over her. The owl radiated an ancient wisdom, a quiet power. On its head, nestled among its soft feathers, was a circlet woven from what looked like dried sleep blossoms and tiny shimmering bells that were utterly silent. Great lullaby owl, Lyra began, her voice a respectful whisper. I am Lyra, and I seek the heart song. The forest is silent, and all life suffers. She held up the echo stone, its light now a steady, gentle pulse. The owl tilted its head, its golden eyes studying the stone. A soft, almost inaudible hoo escaped its beak. It was a sound of immense age and weariness. It unfolded one of its massive wings, revealing a hidden compartment within the hollow of the tree. From it carefully extracted a single, shimmering feather. This was no ordinary feather. It pulsed with a soft inner light, and as Lyra watched, faint, almost invisible symbols began to swirl within its translucent barbules. The owl extended the feather towards Lyra. The whispers are not gone, child, a voice echoed in Lyra's mind, not spoken aloud, but a deep, resonant thought. They merely sleep, and the heart song, it does not rest, it is held. Lyra reached out and gently took the feather. It was warm to the touch, and as her fingers closed around it, a faint, almost melodic ethrum resonated from within. The symbols within the feather swirled faster, coalescing into a shimmering, ancient map. It was not a map of paths and trees, but of currents and flows, of energy and sound. This is a fragment of the song stream. The owl's thought voice resonated in Lyra's mind. The true path to the heart song. It shows where the last echoes of the song stream still linger, before it was swallowed by the great silence. Lyra looked at the feather, then back at the majestic owl. The great silence? What caused it? The owl's golden eyes seemed to dim for a moment. A shadow, its thought voice replied, born of forgetting. A greed for all sound, that sought to possess the heart song for itself. It stole the threads of harmony, weaving them into a cage of quiet, and bound the song stream. It believes by holding the heart song, it gains power. But power without harmony is merely emptiness. Who? Lyra asked, a sudden chill running down her spine. The adventure had suddenly taken a darker turn. This wasn't just about a lost song. It was about an intentional act, a theft. Its name is spoken only in the deepest silence, for fear it might hear, the owl's thought voice rumbled. It is the weaver of stillness, a creature of ancient shadow magic, who dwells in the sunken knoll of songs, far to the north, beyond the whispering peaks. The feather in Lyra's hand pulsed, and the shimmering map within it glowed brighter, highlighting a specific route. It showed not a straight path, but a winding journey through hidden valleys and across treacherous ridges, always following the faint, invisible currents of the songstream. The final destination, the sunken knoll, appeared as a swirling vortex of deep shadow and faint, trapped light. "The Weaver of Stillness," Lyra whispered, the name feeling heavy on her tongue. It was a daunting foe, far more than she had anticipated. She was just a girl from a small village, with a satchel and an echo stone. "You are not merely a girl, Lyra of the Sleep Blossom Village," the lullaby owl's thought voice gently corrected her. "You carry the echo stone, a vessel of memory and hope. And you carry a pure heart, unburdened by the greed that ensnared the weaver. The echo stone will guide you through the currents of the song stream. But beware, for the weaver's silence is not passive. It is a shield and a weapon." Whisper chittered anxiously on Lyra's shoulder, its tiny body trembling. Even the brave little sprite seemed daunted by the revelation of the Weaver of Stillness. "What do I do when I reach the sunken knoll?" Lyra asked, her voice laced with a tremor of apprehension. "You must listen," the owl's thought voice replied. "Listen with your heart, for the heart song is not truly silenced, only muffled. It seeks to be heard, to be freed. The echo stone will help you hear its plea. And when you do, you must sing." "Sing?" Lyra, who only knew the simple lullabies grandmother Elara taught her, felt a surge of doubt. How could her voice, small and untrained, hope to free the heart song from a creature of ancient shadow magic? "Your song," the owl's thought voice clarified, "need not be perfect, only true. It must be an echo of your own heart's song, full of the love and hope that the weaver lacks. Only then can the heart song break free." With a final silent nod, the lullaby owl retracted its wing, and the hollow tree opening seemed to dim slightly. The feather in Lyra's hand glowed with a steady, reassuring warmth. Lyra looked at Whisper, who met her gaze with wide, determined eyes. The journey had just become infinitely more dangerous, the quest more profound. She was no longer just searching for a lost sound. She was confronting a powerful entity of darkness. Taking a deep breath, Lyra clutched the feather and the echo stone. The sunken knoll of songs beyond the whispering peaks. It was a long, perilous journey. But the forest, the chittering sprites, the burrow bears and grandmother Elara were waiting. They were all depending on her. She had to try. With new resolve, Lyra turned her gaze towards the distant, shadowed peaks, following the shimmering map of the song stream, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The first step was always the hardest, a tremor of doubt in the soles of her boots against the familiar forest floor. But Lyra breathed in the scent of damp earth and ancient pine, and the doubt receded, replaced by the steady thrum of the song stream within her. It wasn't just a map anymore. It was a living current, a shimmering thread of sound and light that pulsed with the forest's heart, guiding her not just with its path, but with its rhythm. The journey began in the hushed embrace of the whispering woods, a place she knew intimately, yet now it seemed transformed. Every rustle of leaves, every murmur of the wind, felt imbued with a new purpose, a gentle farewell, or a hopeful encouragement. The chittering sprites, usually a whirlwind of playful mischief, watched from the shadows of oak leaves, their tiny eyes wide with a quiet reverence. A family of burrow bears emerging from their earthen den, lifted their heads, their usually gruff snorts softened into soft whimpers as Lyra passed, as if sensing the weight of her quest. She offered them a small, comforting smile, a silent promise that she would return. Her path led her deeper into the woods, where the trees grew taller, their branches intertwining to form a vast emerald canopy that filtered the starlight into dappled patterns on the mossy ground. Here, the song stream intensified, a soft humming vibration that resonated in the echo stone, making it glow with a gentle, inner light. The feather, tucked into her tunic, felt warm against her skin, a constant, comforting presence. As the familiar paths began to fade, giving way to less trodden trails, Lyra encountered the first of the wood's hidden wonders. Not far from a gurgling brook, she found a grove of moon-petal flowers, their petals shimmering with an ethereal silver light even in the absence of the moon. They opened only at night, drawing sustenance from starlight and the gentle hum of the earth. As she walked past, the song stream in her echo stone seemed to sing in harmony with the flowers, and their silvery light pulsed, brightening her way. Further on, the air grew thick with the scent of wild jasmine and something else, something ancient and earthy. She found herself at the edge of a small, shimmering lake, its surface so still it mirrored the star-dusted sky perfectly. Here, the song streams seemed to converge, swirling into a visible vortex of soft opalescent light just beneath the water's surface. As Lyra knelt by the shore, the echo stone vibrated, and a melody, clear and resonant, seemed to rise from the depths of the lake, a song of memory and longing. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. From the lake's depths a creature emerged, not menacing, but majestic. It was a luminous serpent, its scales a mosaic of deep blues and purples, its eyes like polished obsidian. Its form was long and slender, adorned with delicate bioluminescent fins that pulsed with the same soft light as the moon petal flowers. The luminous serpent was a guardian of ancient waters rarely seen, and it regarded Lyra with an intelligence that spoke of untold ages. It didn't speak with words, but with images and feelings that flowed into Lyra's mind through the song stream, amplified by the echo stone. It showed her glimpses of the past, the land vibrant and whole, the song stream flowing freely, and then, a shadow, a growing discord that began to dim the light. It conveyed a warning. The path ahead was not merely physical, it was a path through echoes and illusions, where the very air could weave doubt and fear. But it also offered reassurance, a feeling of innate strength within her, connected to the very heart of the world. As the luminous serpent dipped back into the shimmering lake, leaving only ripples of starlight, Lyra understood. The Whispering Peaks were not just mountains, they were a repository of memories, of lost songs and forgotten dreams, and perhaps of the growing disharmony that had caused the sunken knoll of songs to fall silent. She would need more than just courage. She would need clarity and an unwavering heart. The transition from the deep woods to the foothills of the Whispering Peaks was gradual, marked by a thinning of the forest canopy and the emergence of more rugged terrain. The soft mossy ground gave way to stony paths, and the air grew cooler, carrying the crisp scent of pine and something else, a mineral tang that spoke of ancient rock. The trees here were gnarled and resilient, their roots clinging stubbornly to the sparse soil, their branches twisted by unseen winds. As Lyra ascended, the song stream, while still her guide, began to change its cadence. It no longer hummed with the gentle flowing melody of the forest floor, but resonated with a deeper, more profound bass note, like the heartbeat of the mountains themselves. The echo stone warmed in her hand, its light steady, guiding her through the deepening twilight. The foothills were a labyrinth of winding trails and hidden gorges. Here, the whispers began. At first they were faint, like the sigh of the wind through distant rock formations. But as she climbed higher, they grew more distinct, carried on the chill mountain air. They weren't words, not yet, but fragments of sound, a faint echo of laughter, a distant sob, the whisper of a name she almost recognized. They tugged at her memory, stirring emotions she couldn't quite place, making her feel both wistful and strangely disoriented. Remembering the luminous serpent's warning, Lyra held the echo stone tighter. She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the steady pulse of the song stream within the stone, letting its pure resonance cut through the confusing whispers. When she opened them again, the path ahead seemed clearer, less muddled by the subtle illusions the peaks tried to weave. She came across a small, sheltered alcove nestled against a sheer rock face. Inside, a tiny fire crackled, casting dancing shadows. An old figure sat by the fire, hunched over a steaming mug. This was not a forest creature, but a being of the mountains. It was a crag weaver, a reclusive hermit-like being with skin like weathered stone and eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 seasons. Its hair, long and braided with strands of mountain herbs, was the color of lichen. The crag weaver didn't look up immediately. Its hands, gnarled and strong, worked deftly with a piece of glowing crystal, shaping it with a tiny humming chisel. The sound was melodic, adding to the mountain's chorus. "Greetings, wanderer," the crag weaver rumbled, its voice like pebbles shifting in a stream. It finally looked up, its eyes, deep-set and luminous, fixing on Lyra. "You carry a powerful song." Lyra bowed slightly. I seek the sunken knoll of songs. The song stream guides me." She held up the echo stone, its light pulsing gently. The crag weaver nodded, its gaze lingering on the stone. The song stream's path is true, but the peaks are old. They remember much. And not all memories are kind. The whispers will try to lead you astray, to show you what you fear, or what you desire most. It paused, taking a slow sip from its mug, which smelled faintly of spiced mountain berries. The echo stone will protect your mind, but your heart must be stronger still. What echo do you carry deepest within you? Lyra thought of Grandmother Ilara, of the chittering sprites, the burrow bears, the quiet hum of her forest home. The echo of what I protect, she replied, her voice steady. The song of my home. The crag weaver smiled, a slow, craggy unfolding of its face. A strong anchor. Good. Take this. It extended a hand, offering her a small, smooth pebble, no bigger than her thumb. It was dull gray, unremarkable. But as she took it, she felt a subtle warmth spread through her palm. This is a heartstone. Should the whispers grow too strong, should your own resolve waver, hold it. It will sing only the purest note of your own heart, drowning out the discordant echoes of the peaks. Lyra thanked the cragweaver, tucking the heartstone safely into her pouch alongside the echo stone and the feather. She felt a surge of gratitude for this unexpected gift and guidance. As she prepared to leave, the cragweaver offered one last piece of advice. When the winds truly sing, listen not with your ears but with your skin. The peaks will show you the way, if you let them. With a renewed sense of purpose, Lyra continued her ascent. The path steepened considerably now, winding its way up the sheer rock faces. The air grew thinner, crisper, and the stars above seemed to multiply, scattered like diamond dust across the velvet sky. The true whispering peaks began here. The whispers intensified, no longer just distant echoes, but swirling currents of sound around her. They were like a chorus of unseen voices, some sweet and alluring, others sharp and mocking. They spoke of comfort and rest, tempting her with visions of her warm bed and the familiar safety of home. Then they shifted, showing her fears, the forest silenced, Grandmother Ilara's face etched with worry. It was a dizzying assault on her senses, designed to break her will. Clutching the echo stone and the new heartstone, Lyra focused. The echo stone pulsed, filtering the cacophony into a more harmonious hum, while the heartstone resonated with the steady, comforting beat of her own conviction. She remembered the cragweaver's words, "Listen not with your ears, but with your skin." She closed her eyes, not to block out the sounds, but to feel them. The wind wasn't just cold, it carried vibrations, subtle currents of air that seemed to trace patterns on her skin. She felt the ancient, deep thrum of the mountain beneath her feet, the gentle brush of spirit winds against her face, and the shimmering, guiding thread of the song stream. Now, not just a sound, but a tactile sensation, like fine silk brushing her fingertips. Following this intuitive sense, she found herself navigating paths that were invisible to the eye, winding ledges that shimmered into existence only when she trusted her instincts. The whispering peaks were not static, they were alive, a vast breathing entity that tested those who dared to climb them. She encountered strange, beautiful phenomena. There were caves where crystals grew, not from rock, but from solidified sound, resonating with a pure, bell-like tone that brought a momentary clarity to her mind. She saw flocks of skyfish, their scales like iridescent mother of pearl, swimming through the cloud currents, their silent movements a ballet of light. One particularly perilous stretch of the climb presented a significant challenge. The path narrowed to a crumbling ledge, overlooking a dizzying drop into a chasm where swirling mists concealed the bottom. The whispers here were at their loudest, trying to convince her that the ledge would give way, that she was not strong enough, that her quest was futile. Lyra's breath hitched. Fear, cold and sharp, pricked at her. She felt her resolve begin to fray. This was the moment the cragweaver had warned her about. She reached for the heartstone, clutched it tight. A gentle warmth spread through her, and a single clear note resonated from it, a pure, unwavering tone that spoke of courage, of hope, of the love that fueled her journey. It was her own heart's song, amplified. With renewed focus, she looked at the chasm. The song stream, usually a shimmering thread, now pulsed more strongly, forming a faint, almost invisible bridge of light across the gap. It was not a physical bridge, but a path woven from pure sound and intention. She remembered the feather. Grandmother Ilara had given it to her, speaking of the sky singer, a mythical bird that could ride the very currents of the wind. Taking a deep breath, Lyra pulled the feather from her tunic. It felt light, almost weightless in her hand. She held it out, letting the wind catch it. Instead of being swept away, the feather began to glow, emitting a soft golden light that pulsed in harmony with the song stream. With the echo stone guiding her steps through the song stream's invisible path, the heart stone fortifying her spirit, and the feather showing her how to move with the wind, Lyra took a leap of faith. She didn't fall. Instead, as her feet touched the shimmering bridge of the song stream, she felt an incredible lightness. The feather seemed to create a gentle lift, allowing her to almost glide across the chasm, her movements fluid and sure, guided by the unseen currents. The whispers faded, replaced by the triumphant hum of the song stream and the steady beat of her own heart. When she reached the other side, exhilarated and breathless, the feather's glow subsided, and the song stream bridge dissolved back into subtle vibrations. She had overcome a great test, not with force, but with trust in the magic she carried and the strength within herself. As she continued her ascent, the air grew colder still, but the whispers lessened, replaced by a profound sense of ancient quiet. The peaks were no longer trying to dissuade her. They seemed to acknowledge her passage, offering silent respect. The landscape transformed once more. The jagged rocks gave way to smooth, polished stone, carved by millennia of wind and the subtle erosion of magical energy. Strange, hardy lichens, glowing with faint phosphorescent light, clung to the rock faces, illuminating her way like tiny, ethereal lanterns. She reached a plateau, a vast, flat expanse near the very summit. Here, the wind sang a different tune, a clear, high-pitched melody that was neither a whisper nor a roar, but a pure, elemental song. It was the song of the peaks themselves, a sound of immense age and power. From this vantage point, Lyra could see for miles. The world stretched out beneath her, a tapestry of shadowy forests, winding rivers, and distant, shimmering plains. And there, far in the distance, veiled by a perpetual mist, lay a distinct depression in the land, a hollow where no light seemed to penetrate. The sunken knoll of songs. It looked like a scar on the land, a place of profound silence in a world of gentle music. The song stream, which had guided her through the mountains, now pointed directly towards it, a bright, unwavering beam of light emanating from the echo stone, cutting through the mist. The feather in her tunic pulsed with a soft golden warmth, as if eager to take flight towards the looming destination. Lyra stood on the summit, the wind whipping around her, stars closer than she had ever seen them. She was tired, but a new strength bloomed within her, a quiet confidence born of the challenges she had overcome. She had faced the deceptive whispers, traversed unseen paths, and soared across a chasm of fear. The cragweaver's words, the Lumina serpent's wisdom, and Grandmother Ilara's enduring love had all become part of her, strengthening her resolve. The sunken knoll of songs awaited. It was a daunting sight, a place where the very essence of song had been extinguished. But Lyra knew she was ready for the next leg of her journey. The peaks had tested her, refined her, and now they offered her a clear, albeit challenging path forward. With a deep breath, she began her descent down the other side, her gaze fixed on the shadowed knoll, the echo stone in her hand burning bright with the song stream's unwavering light, ready to bring back the music to a silenced world. With a deep breath, she began her descent down the other side, her gaze fixed on the shadowed knoll, the echo stone in her hand burning bright with the song stream's unwavering light, ready to bring back the music to a silenced world. The path down was steeper than the ascent, winding and treacherous, but Lyra's steps were sure. The air grew perceptibly colder with each footfall, a chill that seeped into her bones, not just of temperature, but of an absence, a void. As she descended, the vibrant light of the echo stone, which had so bravely lit her way through the peaks, seemed to dim, as if struggling against an unseen force. The knoll, once a distant shadow, now loomed, a vast sunken basin where the very air felt heavy and muffled. Trees that had once boasted lush foliage now stood skeletal and twisted, their branches like gnarled fingers grasping at a sky that seemed perpetually overcast, even though the stars above the peaks had been brilliant. The ground beneath her feet was barren, a fine gray dust that absorbed her footsteps, leaving no echo. This was not merely a quiet place. It was a place where sound itself had been forgotten, where the memory of a rustling leaf or a buzzing insect had been erased. A profound oppressive silence pressed in on her, a silence so deep it hummed, a low, unnerving thrum that resonated in her chest. Lyra clutched the echo stone tighter. Its light, though subdued, pulsed with a stubborn warmth, a tiny beacon against the encroaching gloom. A whisper of doubt tried to curl around her heart, a chilling thought that perhaps this silence was too ancient, too powerful to break. But then, she remembered the clear, resonant note that had bloomed within her on the peaks, the strength she had found in her own inner melody. The peaks had taught her that even in the greatest solitude, one's own song could sustain. She reached the bottom of the descent, stepping onto the flat, desolate floor of the knoll. The silence here was absolute, a heavy blanket that seemed to absorb all light and warmth. She walked slowly, her senses alert, her eyes searching the gloom. In the center of the knoll, where the shadows seemed deepest, stood a colossal, ancient oak. Its trunk was wider than any she had ever seen, its bark like petrified sorrow, and its branches, leafless and black, clawed at the air as if in silent agony. This was not a tree of life, but a monument to the absence of it. As Lyra approached the ancient oak, the humming silence intensified, vibrating through the ground, through her very bones. She felt a profound sadness emanating from the tree, a deep, aching loneliness. And then a form began to coalesce from the deepest shadows beneath its branches. It was a being of pure shadow and wisps of grey mist, tall and gaunt, its form shifting and reforming like smoke. Its eyes, if one could call them that, were twin points of utter emptiness, like black holes that swallowed all light. This was the Hushbringer, the spirit of the knoll, the architect of the world's silence. It moved without sound, drifting towards her, and as it drew nearer, the already dim light of the echo stone flickered, struggling. A voice, if it could be called that, spoke in Lyra's mind, a chilling whisper that stole courage and hope. Silence is peace. Silence is oblivion. Why disturb the peace? Lyra's throat felt tight, her voice caught in the suffocating silence. She held up the echo stone, its light now barely a glimmer against the Hushbringer's overwhelming darkness. The song stream within it pulsed weakly, its vibrant energy being steadily drawn into the oppressive void. The Hushbringer extended a hand, ethereal and cold, towards the stone. Give it to me. Let the last echoes fade. Let there be only quiet. Lyra shook her head, a tremor running through her. She tried to speak, but only a dry rasp escaped her lips. The silence was not peace. It was emptiness. It was the absence of joy, of connection, of life. She had seen the sorrow it brought to the world, the muted colors, the stagnant air, the longing in the eyes of the creatures she had met. She remembered the laughter of the river sprites, the playful calls of the mountain goats, the gentle hum of the moss. She remembered the warmth of her own mother's lullabies. These were not disturbances. They were the very fabric of existence. With a surge of defiant will, Lyra pushed back against the mental whisper. She closed her eyes, focusing not on the looming shadow, but on the memory of the song stream, of the melody that had awakened within her. She recalled the feeling of the wind through the peaks, the steady rhythm of her own heart. A tiny, fragile hum began in her chest, a whisper of a tune, barely audible even to herself. It was the simple melody she had discovered, her own song, pure and unwavering. As she hummed, the echo stone in her hand responded. Its light, which had almost vanished, flared with a sudden brilliant intensity. The song stream, recognizing her individual spark, surged, no longer fighting the silence, but embracing Lyra's own melody and amplifying it. The Hushbringer recoiled, its shadowy form wavering as if struck by an invisible force. What is this sound, this intrusion? Its voice was no longer a confident whisper, but tinged with a flicker of alarm. Lyra opened her eyes. She was no longer afraid. Her humming grew, strengthening, filling the space around her. The echo stone now burned with an almost blinding light, channeling not just the ancient song stream, but Lyra's own burgeoning music, a unique blend of timeless harmony and youthful courage. She took a deep breath, and then she sang. Her voice, pure and clear, rang out across the knoll. It was a simple, heartfelt melody, born of her journey, of her longing, of her unwavering hope. It spoke of sun-drenched peaks and babbling brooks, of rustling leaves and whispering winds, of laughter and tears, and the shared heartbeat of the world. The sound was not an attack, but an offering. It was a wave of warmth, of vibrant color, of pure, unadulterated joy. As Lyra's song cascaded outwards, the oppressive silence shattered, splintering into a million shimmering fragments that dissolved like morning mist. The Hushbringer writhed, its form swirling violently. It tried to absorb the sound, to draw it into its emptiness, but Lyra's song was too strong, too pure, too infused with the songstream's ancient magic and her own indomitable spirit. The music washed over it, through it, and around it, not destroying but transforming. Slowly, incredibly, the shadowy form of the Hushbringer began to change. The emptiness in its eyes softened, replaced by a deep, ancient sorrow. The wisps of shadow began to shimmer with faint, iridescent hues, the colors of dawn, of starlight, of deep forest green. Its gaunt form grew less distinct, more ethereal, until it was no longer a being of oppressive silence, but a shimmering, translucent figure, composed of faint, whispering echoes. The ancient oak, which had been a monument to sorrow, began to awaken. From its gnarled branches, tiny emerald buds burst forth, unfurling into leaves of a vibrant, impossible green. A soft, gentle rustling filled the air, the first sound of the knoll in ages. The barren ground beneath Lyra's feet softened, tiny shoots of grass pushing up through the gray dust, reaching for the light. Wildflowers in hues of sapphire and ruby and gold bloomed where only desolation had been. The transformation was breathtaking. The knoll, once a place of mute despair, was now a vibrant, singing garden. The air filled with the gentle hum of newly awakened insects, the soft chirping of birds taking flight from the rejuvenated trees, and the faint, sweet scent of blossoms. The Hushbringer, now a luminous, whispering echo, drifted upwards, circling the newly vibrant oak, no longer a source of silence, but a guardian of gentle sounds, a living memory of the quiet that had once been, now woven into the tapestry of returning song. Lyra, still singing, felt the song stream surge through the echo stone, its light expanding, no longer contained by the knoll. Like a tidal wave of pure living sound, the music flowed outwards, across the land, over the peaks, down into the valleys, and beyond, reaching every corner of the silenced world. Far away, in the sleeping villages, mothers stirred, a forgotten lullaby humming on their lips. Fathers picked up long dormant flutes, their fingers instinctively finding the right notes. Rivers, once sluggish and silent, began to babble and rush. The wind sang through the trees, 1,000 different melodies woven into its breath. Animals in the forests burst into joyous calls, their voices ringing with a freedom they hadn't known they'd lost. The world, from the deepest caverns to the highest cloud, awakened with a symphony of sound. Lyra watched, tears streaming down her face, tears of profound joy and relief. The echo stone in her hand now pulsed with a steady, soft glow, a constant, gentle hum, no longer burning with urgency, but with the quiet contentment of a task fulfilled. Her quest was complete. She had brought back the music. She began her journey back, no longer burdened by the weight of a silent world, but buoyed by its returning song. She passed through forests that now rustled with life, by rivers that sang their own ancient tunes, and over fields where wildflowers nodded their heads in time to the breeze. Along the way she met creatures and people who had begun to remember. A squirrel chattered a greeting, a deer paused, its ears twitching to a distant melody, and from a hidden cottage, she heard the sweet, slightly off-key notes of a child learning to play a pipe. When she finally reached her own village, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of rose and gold. And from every home, every street, every garden came the sound of music. Laughter, singing, instruments being played with a renewed passion. The air vibrated with life. Her own home, once so quiet, now echoed with a familiar, gentle melody. Her mother, hearing her approach, stepped out, a soft, joyful tune on her lips. Her eyes, once filled with a quiet longing, now sparkled with unshed tears as she saw Lyra. She embraced her daughter, holding her close, and for a long moment, they simply stood, listening to the world sing around them. Lyra, weary but content, sat by her window that night, the echo stone nestled safely on her bedside table, glowing with a soft, reassuring light. The world outside hummed with 1,000 voices, a symphony of life reborn. She had been just a girl with a longing heart, but she had found her courage, discovered her own song, and brought music back to a silenced world. As the gentle melodies of the night drifted through her open window, Lyra closed her eyes, a soft smile on her lips. She listened to the world's lullaby, a lullaby she had helped to restore, and drifted into a peaceful, music-filled sleep, knowing that the song in every heart would never truly be silenced again.